Another one that probably is dominating the headlines a lot over there, mate, is the Prado Supercross. Obviously, since we last spoke, that's been officially announced. So is the excitement building around that for you and around the industry as well? It's pretty amazing sort of set of circumstances having the MXGP 450 world champion racing 450 Supercross straight to the elite class. So I guess if one rider can do it, it would be him. Obviously, you spoke last time about just how that situation looks. Is it too risky? Maybe he should have skipped it and maybe given himself a full preseason assault for a Quest next year. So your thoughts on all that, mate? How's the excitement ramping up around Prado?
Yeah, it was fun to talk with him. And it was very apparent in speaking with him that this has always been the goal since he was like 14 years old. Now, he said his goals shifted a bit when he started racing MX2 a little bit. He said that it was always about beating Jeffrey. Like all of his goals, his entire career, were to beat Jeffrey Hurlings. And he believes that he did that this year straight up, right? He was beating him when Jeffrey got hurt. He was leading the points the entire way, and he doesn't feel that anything would have changed. So in his mind, he accomplished what his long-term, lifelong goal was to beat Jeffrey Hurlings. And now he can reposition that back to the original goal, was to come race American Supercross. Because we had this room where we just spoke with him for basically like 30 minutes, and you asked all sorts of questions. And it was interesting because Ricky Carmichael was in the room, and all the myself, not really me, but people that he would know from American Supercross were all in this room asking. And he said, I didn't really grow up watching MXGP. I grew up watching Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart. So those were really the races that I watched all the time, and my heroes was when I was a kid. So now that I've vanquished this goal of beating Jeffrey and winning an MXGP World Championship, I get to go back and chase this other dream that I kind of put on hold for a very long time. So now that I know that frame where he's coming from, it does make a lot of sense that he wants to come over, get his feet wet, do a few races, because in my mind, he's 100% coming over in 2025 full-time. I don't think there's any question that that's going to happen. Now, I don't have any proof of that, but listening to him talk and kind of reading the tea leaves, you can expect him to be full-time here in 2025. So I think he'll learn some. It'll help him in his prep for next off season to kind of know what the necessary speed is, if he's anywhere close, or where do they need to get the bike better for 2025. But yeah, he's excited, and that's the biggest thing. He wants to make a go of racing an American. And if you've been watching his videos, Instagram, any of the media companies are out there that have been filming him, he's making big improvements and quickly. So I don't know what that translates to in the results. I do think he'll be a top 10 guy. I mean, his ability to get a start is beyond reproach. So that's going to set him up nicely. But you just hope he has a few good races, shows some flash, and then can get out of here healthy and then come back full-time in 2025. But it is a really exciting thing. And I'll tell you what, the thing for me will be 2025 Pro Motocross, because that dude is the real deal when it comes to motocross. Supercross, we'll see. He's got some learning to do. But 2025 Pro Motocross, to have him and Jet and Hunter and all these guys go at it is going to be phenomenal.
Absolutely, mate. Totally agree. And I was going to ask you about the expectations. Is top 10 realistic? Obviously, you think about a guy like Dean Wilson who'll be around that level. He's done Supercross for so many years, and just to sort of slot in and beat someone like that would be very impressive in the grand scheme of things. And there's so many, elite riders in that field, absolutely stacked. And I guess how much weight would you be placing on this 3-round stint that he'll be doing? It's obviously a pretty key period determining if he wants to go full time. So obviously so technically gifted, so adaptable, so intelligent, doesn't crash much. But I guess you got to admire and respect the fact that he's throwing himself into that cauldron at A1 and racing straight into those 450 classes, and, riding and racing Supercross, as you know, are two very different things. So is that realistic, that top 10? And there's just so much to learn, so much room for growth and so much scope for improvement for a rider like that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. The way he gets starts is going to be the biggest help for him. He's going to put himself in positive situations. And if you look at a guy like Dean, his starts have been historically terrible. So it's, if you asked Jorge Prado to come in and start 14th each week and then battle into the top 10 in his first ever Supercross races, that would be a really difficult ask. But I think you're going to see him running around in the top 5 on the first lap more times than not. So that sets him up pretty nicely. The challenge for him, I think, is going to be, can he withstand the shuffle in the early laps, because think about guys like Justin Barcia and Jason Anderson or Malcolm Stewart. Like, they're going to get in and get aggressive with him, right? If he's in the way or if he's got a weak spot, like, they're not going to wait. They're going to be probably more aggressive than they normally would with anybody else, because they know he's only around for a couple of rounds and they want to get him out of the way. So he's got to be able to kind of withstand that barrage of riders. And, if you're not around these elite guys enough, you hear them say this all the time. And if you just get through the first 7, 8, 10 minutes, basically get to halfway without getting in trouble, without doing something stupid, without getting knocked off the track, the race gets kind of easy, because everybody settles into their pace and everybody's lap times are relatively similar. It's just being able to go at the beginning, being able to handle that sprint speed and not getting into any sort of trouble, crashing in the first turn, falling yourself, doing something stupid. So I would say the same thing for Prado. If he can hang around inside the top 6, 7, 8 in the first 10 minutes, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think he's a world champion, 2-time MX2, MXGP world champion. I don't think that like the pressure and the lights and the situation are gonna phase him too much. I think his biggest issue will be, like you said, if one of the guys runs it in on him in the turn, it's then if he can quickly regroup and still get through the rhythm section at race pace rather than sort of having to double his way through there and lose a lot of time. I think that's where the experience with guys like Tomac, Roxon and Anderson is what sort of plays a big part in why they're as great as they are. But do you think Prado, this is like the most hyped European rider to come over and do a Supercross race probably ever?
Do I think he's the most hyped?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Supercross, it's hard to make an argument against it. Jeffrey racing Ironman in 2017 was huge deal. Absolutely huge. I don't know that Jorge Prado carries the star power that Jeffrey does. If this was Jeffrey and the legacy of Jeffrey coming over to race Supercross, I think it would be far and away the most hyped ever. It just has something to do with Prado's demeanor. He's very soft-spoken. He's not super brash. I think most people kind of like him. So I'm super excited. But I wonder, your average fan who maybe doesn't tune into MXGP, they don't know a whole lot about it, are they going to know so much about Prado racing this race? I don't know. That's just what I wonder. He's kind of a little bit more of a quieter superstar than what a Jeffrey Hurlings would be.